So one of the things that people like to ask about this restaurant in Covent Garden, Paro, is will it franchise? I've been in the food industry since I was 14, and when you're just addicted to everything that goes on in hospitality, you see so many people do so well by franchising, but you also see just as many people fail miserably. Now, of course, making your business the decision whether or not to franchise, it comes down to several reasons. For example, strong brand equity, how your systems are in place, and whether you can replicate this service in other areas. Of course, with a restaurant like Paro, it can be notoriously difficult to do so. But let's first talk about some of the issues with franchising. So firstly, here's when a brand should franchise. It's number one, it's to do with brand equity. So this, for example, you know, if you're blowing up on social media or you're doing incredibly well in your local area, that if you open up another place, whether it's 5 miles down the road or somewhere in the suburbs of the city, that place should do really well as well. Number two is uniqueness. Now that doesn't necessarily mean uniqueness in the idea. It could also mean uniqueness in the system. For example, a new way of cooking, something that's more systemizable, scalable, and most importantly, most efficient. When you can do these things and you think you can replicate it in other areas, that is another reason why you should franchise. But here's when you shouldn't, because if you do and you can't get those fundamentals right, especially these ones I'm about to mention, it could be a huge recipe for disaster. Now, the first one is quality control, like I mentioned, and this is why QSR restaurants like Leon, McDonald's, Burger King, they do so well. It's because with QSR, it's easier to maintain that sense of control and that quality. When you have more complicated cogs in the bowl, like for example, like service, like for example, bringing the food out in time, like for example, running a restaurant, there's so many more cogs, which means it's so hard to maintain a sense of control. And when you have other people completely unrelated to your business running these things and doing it in their own way, this essentially breaks the fabric of having a franchise. And the second one is key man risk. Now this could be, for example, in a restaurant, if you have a star chef and that star chef is known for making that restaurant the talk of the town. If you try and replicate this, you're unlikely to replicate 10, 15 different star chefs, especially if your food is complicated. So when you have this in a restaurant group or when you have this, it's something that you need to consider before franchising. And the third one is when you have no support infrastructure. And by this is perhaps the one most important thing about franchises. To open up 3 restaurants is just as hard to open up 3 franchises because you still need the support systems in place. The bookkeepers, the accountants, the marketing team, all of this has to be systemized. And you're going to systemize it anyway, whether you open 1, 3, 5 restaurants, and you have to do the same thing whether you open up 1, 3, 5 franchises. Obviously, the scale is easier with franchises, but the support systems still need to be in place. Now, of course, if you do own a restaurant and it's incredibly successful, you can franchise. In fact, you should franchise. But the most important things are, can you beat the caveats? Do you have the systems and support structures in place to make sure that everything goes tickety-boo when you do go out and franchise? And if so, you should. Now, as a person who obsesses about quality, the fact is, even if you get one of those things so drastically wrong, it could make the whole house of cards crumble. So until you get those things right, those are the things you need to consider when you franchise.